are the days when my heart was young and gay. Gone are my friends from the cotton fields away.
Greetings and welcome to Insights with Dr. Val-Addo, presently focusing on the 500 years of African history on slavery. My name is Dr. J. Val-Addo, a theologian public, and this presentation focuses on great thoughts and addresses commemorating the past 500 years of African history from Pan-African perspective. First, we want to look at the year of return. Many of you might have heard it. The commemoration of the 400 years of African American history in the US was signed into law on January 8, 2018. While in Washington, D.C., in September 2018, the President of Ghana, His Excellency Nana AKUFO-ADDO, declared and launched the Year of Return Ghana 2019 for Africans in Diaspora in the spirit of Pan-African. Among others, the purposes for the Year of Return Ghana 2019 were to unite Africans in the continent with those of African descent in diaspora, and to commemorate the existence and sacrifices of Africans in diaspora. His Excellency Nana AKUFO-ADDO declared, and I quote him, quote, "We know of the extraordinary achievements and contributions they, that is Africans in diaspora, made to the lives of Americans, and it is important that this symbolic year, 400 years later, we commemorate their existence and their sacrifices." And I want us to note the word symbolic. And anything symbolic is a thing that represents or stands for something else, either an object or something abstract. So he was using the 400 years of the African American experience as symbolic to represent something greater than the 400 years. And so to ensure the goal for the Year of Return, which came from the 400 years of African American history, which looks at it as a symbolic representing something greater, the President, His Excellency Nana AKUFO-ADDO, paid working visit to the Caribbean. And I want us to look at the Caribbean islands, where Africans were taken. And so I want you to look closely at the Caribbean. They have been sent there as captives and slaves. And so what the president did was to fly from Ghana in the spirit of Pan-African or Pan-Africa, and did a working visit to the Caribbean islands. And he paid a visit to 5 countries. In actual fact, presently, Africa regards the Caribbean islands as the 5th Africa's region, or Africa's 5th region. The 4 regions are North Africa, Southern part of Africa, Western part of Africa, Eastern part of Africa. And so the Caribbean islands are regarded, or is regarded as, Africa's 5th region. And so he visited there. First, he went to Guyana. Guyana is a country in South America. So he went there, he visited there. That was his first stop. Then he moved on to Trinidad and Tobago. It's a small island here. And these are the islands, Trinidad and Tobago. And from Trinidad and Tobago, he also went to St. Vincent. St. Vincent is a very small island, but we call it St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They are there. And so these are the islands. He went there and also went to Barbados. Now, Barbados is somewhere here. It's an island somewhere here. And then also to Jamaica. And this is Jamaica. Jamaica is an island here. Now, he couldn't visit all the other islands. And I want you to look at the enlarged map to show the Caribbean island countries. And when you go there, you see that here we have Guyana in South America somewhere there. Then this is Trinidad, as I show you on the smaller map. Some Africans were brought to Trinidad. And then we have Grenada. Some Gold Coast people were brought into Grenada. And some were also brought into Barbados. Now here in Barbados, some Africans lived here. So the president went there. Then St. Vincent and the Grenadines are these islands here. It's a chain of islands, smaller islands. And Africans were taken there. And so the president of Ghana visited. This was in June this year, 2019. We have St. Lucia. He didn't go there. We have Dominica. We have Guadeloupe. We have other islands here. And here we have Haiti. And we have Dominican Republic. Now, the president couldn't go to Haiti and couldn't go to Dominican Republic, but he went to Jamaica. Now, I want to show you that history tells us that Africans were sent to Jamaica, and many of them were from the Gold Coast. So they were there. Everything shows. And Haiti has a lot of population that came from Togo and Dahomey. And then other African countries were also sent to the smaller islands. The purpose is for Spain and from Portugal to do farming business. They planted cotton, there were cotton fields, and also there were sugarcane and tobacco fields. So he went there this past June, about a month and a half, in June 2019. So we've shown you where the president, in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, went to in the Caribbean islands. And so he went there, and while in the Caribbean countries he visited, he singularly invited them to come back to Ghana and to Africa to share in the activities to mark the year of return. His Excellency Nana AKUFO-ADDO's message to African descents was very assuring. It was always a single message, never again. He viewed the commemoration as a statement, and quote, as a statement of our determination that never again should the African peoples permit themselves to be subjected to such dehumanizing conditions, sold into slavery, and have their freedoms curtailed. in order to build up forcibly countries other than their own and create wealth for the peoples of unknown lands to which they were sent, wealth from whose enjoyment they were largely excluded. Close quote. So he talked about 5 important things: the dehumanizing conditions that people from Africa sent to the Caribbeans were put into, sold into slavery, number 2, and number 3, their freedoms were curtailed. Number 4, they built up forcibly countries other than their own. And number 5, they created wealth for people of unknown lands, and they never were given the opportunity to enjoy it. And so these are very deep and thoughtful words indeed. And these 5 issues that were raised in his speech to them was very profound. Now, here we gather that the Ghana's president was using proper history to guide, to motivate, and to influence, to guide all Africans in the spirit of Pan-Africanism. He was using history. And so when he declared on September 2018 in Washington, D.C., he made the effort because he knew the Pan-African history. He reached out to brothers and sisters from Africa that were taken into the Caribbean islands, went and visited 5 of the islands, the countries, and spoke to them about never again, and convinced them about the 5 things that they have lost, being dehumanized and sold into slavery and forcibly working for people and creating wealth that they never enjoyed and leaving them in poverty at this time. So later, President Emmanuel Macron of France hosted the same Ghana's president, AKUFO-ADDO, for African Diaspora Summit in Paris on July 11, 2019. So after the visit to the Caribbean, the French president also invited him a month later in July 2019. So in a speech, Ghana's president pointed to the need for a new African narrative, a new African story. And that is the Pan-African story for the transformative development of the continent and its peoples. He called for a new narrative because the narrative has always been Eurocentric, centered on European ideas about the story, how Africa must run. But he called for a new African narrative, a narration of issues and history and stories by the African for transformative development of the continent and its peoples. And part of the speech, and I want to quote him, quote, "The place of the diaspora, the status of the African people in diaspora, of African diaspora, is intimately linked with what happens on the continent." Close quote. He argued. He continued to make it very specific and very clear. And quote, he said, "The destiny of all black people in the world, wherever they are, is bound up with Africa. And a performing Africa elevates the status of all black people around the world. A non-performing Africa continues the situation where black people around the world are looked at. We will post some links of all these speeches and addresses at the bottom of this presentation. So no wonder His Excellency Nana AKUFO-ADDO, the President of Ghana, was declared the Africa's best president on July 15, 2019, just a month ago, less than a month ago, by Leaders of Tomorrow, a Canadian-based research organization. And we will post a link at the bottom of it that you can read and verify for yourself. A similar research by World Vision Forum. All of us know World Vision has been in existence for a long time, and there is a World Vision Forum, and it's a US-based think tank which placed Ghana's president the first on the list for Africa and the third for world presidents with vision. So Canadian research-based organization and US-based think tank have all declared Ghana's president as Africa's best president, and World Vision Forum went further to nominate him as the third of the world presidents with vision. And this vision came from the Pan-African ideas, Pan-African perspective, Pan-African history that he's using to work. And we are living in exciting times of Pan-African history, and Africans and African descents in North America, the Caribbean, Guyana, and around the globe need modern Pan-African visionary leaders like His Excellency Nana AKUFO-ADDO, the President of Ghana, to add deeper meaning to African issues and steer Africa, Africans, and African descent into hope, faith, and next level in life. That is what it means to be an influential leader of an African country, an influential leader of the continent of Africa and of Pan-African issues. So he took the 400 years commemoration after it was signed into law in January 2018, visited Washington, D.C. in September 2018 and declared the year of return and made it a bigger picture of Pan-African history and commemoration. So it is interesting to report that people of the African family from the Caribbean, that is Caribbean Africans, from the United States of America, African Americans, and across the globe, Africans in diaspora return home to Ghana, the black star or beacon of Africa, to celebrate the occasion, and it was known as Pan-African Festival, PAN-AFRIKAN, from July 25th to August 3rd, 2019. It was like a reunion of a long separated family, a unity party of Africans scattered around the globe. In attendance was a delegation of 13 members of the Congressional Black Caucus of the United States House of Representatives, led by the Caucasian Speaker, Nancy Pelosi. They visited two historical slave castles, Elmina Castle and Cape Coast Castles, where Africans from the Gold Coast were forced through the door of no return. For those of us originally from Africa in diaspora who could not attend the Pan-African Festival, reports and pictures indicate it was full of history, remembering history with emotions and healing. The experience of African hospitality and love, the embrace of African natives and those who returned. There were poetic recitals, tearful prayers, African renaming ceremonies of those who had been in diaspora. There was the reverential candle night walk, African community life, eating together, walking together, loving together, among others, which is a practice of practical one another Christianity as taught by the Apostle Paul in his epistles in the Christian scripture. Now, about 200 of the people from diaspora, Africans in diaspora, were granted citizenship of Ghana. Now, there were several thousands of acres of land that were promised to be given to people of diaspora, Africans in diaspora, when they return to Africa, particularly to Ghana, the former Gold Coast. But the part of the commemoration I personally would have suggested to be included in the order of activities was for the planners to have a ship or a couple of ships to carry some Caribbean Africans, African Americans, and Africans in diaspora, and some indigenous people, indigenous Africans, including the ministers of transportation and foreign affairs, from where the castles and forts were built by these Europeans. And in these castles and forts, people were taken there and kept there as slaves to be shipped. In Accra, there was a castle built in 1661. They could have started from Accra, and in Apam, in 1697, there was a fort building. In Komanti, Abanzi, there was a fort built there in 1638. And in Anomabo, a castle was built there in 1753. And they could have strategically positioned people at these seashores for the ship to pick them to the Cape Coast Castle, so they could enter into the door of no return to symbolize their return. They went through that door and they came through that door to freedom in that country of Africa. And that would have been historic. But there was another historic moment, and it was the address that Speaker Nancy Pelosi of the United States House of Representatives gave to Ghana's parliament. It was profound, it was touching, and we would like to cite part of that speech. Nancy Pelosi stated, and I quote, "Our delegation has been humbled by what we have seen this week. At Elmina Castle, we saw the dungeons where thousands were grotesquely tortured. At Cape Coast Castle, we stood before the door of no return, where countless caught their last glimpse of Africa before they were shipped to a life of enslavement. Being here has been a transformative experience for all of us, even if you had been here before, because of the chronology of it. She continued, these profound places are a sobering testament of humanity's capacity for great evil, and also a helpful reminder of the capacity for great resilience, renewal, and strength of a people. Close quote. Now, they say travel and see. When you travel, you see things rather than staying somewhere and talking about issues. And so he says something that what happened is a sobering testament of humanity's capacity for great evil. That means Europe had the capacity for great evil. But she also went on to say that it was also a helpful reminder of the capacity for great resilience, renewal, and strength of a people. These are Africans. They have the capacity for resilience, can stand all kind of torment and torture we have gone through. But it's also a capacity for renewal. We are still standing, and we have the strength as a people. If you travel, you will see who really Africans are. If you stay in Europe and in the Western world and talk about Africans, you wouldn't know what we have gone through and still standing. So traveling changes and enriches people's outlook. Wow. From the speech of Speaker Nancy Pelosi, we learn a lot of things. It is an example of using proper history to inspire, influence, and impact issues. And that is what the Ghana's president has been able to do. We need African presidents to know their history, to know Pan-African history, and to use the history to inspire, influence, and impact other Pan-African people and development. And so we are so excited that we are not only celebrating 400 years of African American history, but we are celebrating over 500 years of African history that embraces the Caribbean countries and islands where our people, our African people, were sent. And some of them were also sent to North America. And so this is exciting times, and the Pan-African idea and perspective and history was able to achieve this. And if we use the Pan-African approach, perspective, and history, Africa will be delivered from Eurocentrism, because Pan-African leads us to Afrocentrism, being Afrocentric, and it will actually encourage Africans to look inwardly, to look at our history, to have a better perspective away from Eurocentric ideas, education, history about Africa and other things. And we will be able to be strong and stand on our feet. And if Ghana's president had used his position power and polity power to inspire, influence, and impact issues and achieve this, it goes on record that we can do better if we use the proper means. And if you receive this presentation and you have learned a lot of things and you receive it on the WhatsApp, please do us a favor. Go to the YouTube and type in Insights with Dr. Val-Addo. You will find our presentations, including this one. And while you are there, press the subscribe button to receive Insights with Dr. Val-Addo and the notification bell to receive an alert when a new presentation is released. And we have provided links below the presentation for you to listen and to read. And please give us a thumb up if this presentation has been very insightful to you. And click the share button to send to friends, relatives, and others. And please scroll down to where there is a comment section and leave us a comment. And we want to encourage you, if you are an African, to be a Pan-Africanist, to focus on Pan-African history and to be an Afrikaner. God bless.
Gone are the days when my heart was young and gay. Gone are my friends from the cotton fields away.